This is Amy Poehler. My new movie, Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, is coming to theaters June 14th, and it's making me feel joy and sadness and anger, definitely some disgust, and I think a little fear. But I'm also feeling these new emotions like anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui.
It's what you call the boredom.
Okay, that one was weird. It's gonna be the feel everything movie of the summer. Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2, rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
Welcome to the RuPaul's Drag Race recap show for All-Star Season 8, Episode 6, titled Joan, the Unauthorized Rusical. My name is Joe Betance, and I am joined, as always, by one stony co-host from the podcast pod is my co-pilot. Please say...
Butter kitter, butter kitter, butter kitter, butt. Gutter, butter, gutter, butter, gutter, butter, gut.
To Taylor, the Latte Boy. Hello, Taylor, the Latte Boy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Now, on Just Between Us Girls, we talked in detail about where you were last week. You were supposed to go to Gay Days, but then you didn't land up there. Where were you, Taylor?
I ended up in the hospital with a kidney stone.
Yeah, he did. And so I think I seem like a dick because I never referenced it on the show. And people follow you on social media, and they were like, Taylor's in the hospital and Joe's just having a good old time with Lori and Joe.
Oh, yeah.
With Lori and Nathan.
It doesn't affect you, so why would you bother commenting on it? The cruel taskmaster of Afterthought Media.
Yeah, I don't look back. I'm just like, whatever, he's gone. Anyway, Taylor, how are you feeling now? Give us an update how you're feeling now.
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling really good. I had a really good week at work. And other than I did go to urgent care yesterday. I didn't tell you this story because I had a issue with my eyelid and I had a sty growing on the inside of my eyelid. So it was driving me nuts. The doctor visit, if the doctor visit lasted 90 seconds, that was a long doctor. She came in, basically said, yeah, it's this. I'm going to prescribe eye drops for you. You'll be fine. Turned around, walked out the door.
Oh my God, I hate that.
Yeah.
Even if it's not that important of a detail, about a month ago, I went to the doctor and I'd gotten this really bad, I think I talked about this really bad fungus. This is the new Joe trying to pick up men on my podcast thing. Fungus all over like the top of my shoulder, my neck and stuff. Mm-hmm. I have a theory of how I got it, by the way. My theory is I went to my normal hairstylist and there was a guy, I had to wait longer than usual. And there was some guy who looked kind of gross that she was finishing up his haircut. Mm-hmm. And I remember clocking how gross he was. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whatever. But she was in a hurry. And then she chased me because she was running late with me. And I think he had some sort of fungus. And that because it started on the back of my neck. And that when she was... when they do the thing with the trimmer to trim the back of your neck?
Yeah.
That she somehow gave me the fungus. Anyway, I'd gotten this weird, like, bulbous growth, like almost like a huge skin tag right here, right? Oh. So the doctor's like, I think I'm going to have to refer you to a dermatologist for that, right? Okay. So she referred me to a dermatologist, set up the appointment for like 2 weeks later. Well, after doing the treatment for the fungus, this thing fucking went away. But I'm like, I want to keep this dermatology appointment though, right? So I go, yeah, it was right here. And I was trying to be funny about it. I was like, kind of like when you call a plumber over and it starts working again or whatever, right? And she chuckled and I go, and you can already see her packing up. Like I was there for 10 seconds at this point. And then I go, and I have this like dark spot under my, just burn it off. I'll give you a phone number. All right, good. Take care. And I was like, oh, well, that was fast. I was, all right.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, I'm glad to hear you're better, and I'm glad to know you're okay, and I think everybody's glad that you are back.
Yes, and I'm glad that I didn't have to deal with that Snatch Game episode.
Hello?
Who's that?
Yeah, who is that? I don't know who that is.
Hi, Taylor, it's me. It's your kidney stone.
Oh, hi, Kidney Stone. How are you?
I'm good. I missed you.
That's great. That's great. We spent a wonderful week together that I will never forget.
I know, but then you just pissed me out in your toilet with a bunch of your shit, which I don't think is a nice way to say goodbye to somebody.
Well, sometimes we earn the way that we are told goodbye.
By the way, I also know, because I was in you for a while, after you guys played this Tears of the Kingdom, or you went to Whataburger. Are there Whataburgers in Florida?
No, there are no Whataburgers in Florida.
After you went to Dairy Queen or wherever you guys go. Raising Cane's? I don't know where you guys go.
We do have a Raising Cane's, but...
Babalu gave it to you real good, and I could feel him thrusting against me.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I bukkakied all over you, though.
I'm not sorry. I liked it.
So, I was on a medicine that caused me to have retrograde ejaculations. So, I ended up, coming into my own bladder.
I loved it. I loved it. Except you got it in my eye one time. I didn't like it. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little hurt that you guys didn't ask me to be a third in your couple, in your relationship. Because
technically, we were a third.
Yeah,
you were a third.
I was. Yeah, yeah, I guess I was, but you guys dumped me for somebody else. Anyway, have a good show.
Bye.
Sorry, Taylor. I had to go leave the room for a second. So
okay.
All right.
Probably
let's
best.
jump to the show. We can't wait any more time. This week, the girls will sing and act in their very own musical send-up of both the life of Joan Crawford and the film Mommy Dearest. On the runway, the category is Night of 1,000 Grace Jones. I don't know. I was thinking about this. Is it just Grace Jones, period? Or would you say Grace Jones's? I don't know. In the end, Candy Muse was named the top all-star of the week, while Kahana Montrese and James Mansfield were placed in the bottom two after facing off with season 14's, facing off against season 14's Angeria Paris Van Michaels. Candy was named the winner of the lip sync and revealed that she had chosen to send home James Mansfield. Taylor, what did you think of the lip sync, and did the right person go home?
The lip sync will probably go down as one of the worst lip syncs on the series. It was to quote my co-host, horrible. it was sloppy. I don't get Rue's fascination with Candy Muse. I really don't get it. And I mean, just from the beginning, she had the weird pasties on, so you were expecting there to be a reveal, but there wasn't a reveal. It was just kind of rolling around on the ground, and not that Angeria was really a whole lot better. You know, I also kind of blame it's an odd song. I remember that song, I remember the video for that song when I was a kid. And it's not really a fast song, it's not a slow song, but it was just not good.
I don't know the Grace Jones oeuvre, if you will, but I do know of another song she has called I Need a Man or something like that, which seems to be a lot more. I'm not saying it's the best song for lip sync either, but it's better than the one that they chose. It's funny that you say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't quite get that, but no, that was not fun at all to watch. Not enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as far as the right person going home, I'm going to say yes, because...
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I am, because I feel like we've seen everything James had to offer, because James... and I also get that you could say the same thing about Kahana, but she always does the same, Jane Mansfield, look of that, 60s blonde bombshell sort of thing. She doesn't really vary that, and when she does, she normally doesn't do it really well. And I think that it added a little bit of drama, because everybody was expecting, the viewers were expecting Kahana to go home because it was her third time. Mm-hmm. So now it's kind of showing that the game is really where they are going to, hopefully every once in a while, put out the stronger of the two competitors.
Wow, you've brought up a lot of issues here. Hold on. Let's talk about what you said in terms of Candy Muse and you don't know what the deal is with RuPaul. I've seen this discussion a lot. I think I had a conversation with Robert about it either on Rulaska Thoughts or privately, which I think was on Rulaska Thoughts, where it's no coincidence, according to Robert, that Candy Muse is originally on one of what's widely considered one of the worst seasons of Drag Race, season 14. Mm-hmm. Is it 14 or 13? Season 13.
13.
14. 13. And now she's on what's widely considered the worst season of All Stars. And that they both have this in common. And that's true. And I think I took that at face value. But now that I think about it, based on what you said, is that I don't know why RuPaul's fascinated with her. And maybe could it be perhaps that it's by chance that Candy was on originally one of the worst seasons. And also, it might not even be that simple either. It could be a complication of the two.
Right.
Is that now she's on one of the worst seasons of All Stars. And that RuPaul realizes, oh shit, I fucking need this bitch, because otherwise it's a snooze fest now. It'll be more of a snooze fest if I get rid of her.
Right.
Now, it could be one of the things where she's almost like an arsonist. She's going into the place, burning the place fucking down because she's horrible. And so the season's horrible, but then they realize they can't get rid of her because she's the only one keeping it kind of interesting.
Right.
So I don't know. She's like a reality show terrorist. But you're right. Both seasons she was on... Both seasons she was on were horrible. They're not good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's part of the problem. Talking about the lip sync, I don't know. Maybe a lot of the lip syncs have been getting bad, but like I feel this was, yes, on the bad side of what we've been seeing. But maybe it is one of the worst ones of the series. I don't know. It was not interesting to me at all. But you have to understand something. It's also these two queens I'm not big fans of. I wasn't a fan of. I never understood the Angeria Paris Van Michaels sort of hype on her own season.
Mm-hmm.
I've never gotten Candy Muse. So it's watching two people I don't like, watching someone from Goron City and from Gerudo Valley go head to head in a lip sync battle for their lives, even though I would love to see it in Tears of the Kingdom, not IRL. Thank you. I want to say something about your Kahana going, about James Mansfield. It was a little surprising. I don't think James Mansfield should have even been in the bottom, and I'm sure we'll discuss this. And I feel now, but going back to the Kahana thing, is Kahana, it's so funny. These queens get such a boner for the validation they get from All Stars, but Kahana is you're right. I think you brought this up in the Roxy Andrews position. Where now at a certain point, though, if I had been nominated that many times, I would say vote me out, because now you're risking the backlash from the audience who just wants you to go fucking home, right? That you keep sending people home, and you've already been in the bottom 3 times. Kahana has to go home very soon, or it's just not going to be cute. And for her post career, I don't know why she's not thinking about it, but then they get so blind by they want this validation. And again, as we've talked about, everybody on this cast seems to think that they were going to walk in and walk away with the prize. I don't understand the thing here. Did you say everything you said about the lip syncing who went home correctly and stuff like that? I think you did. Did you have anything to say? Because I feel like I'm just talking.
Well, I think you're talking about the parallel between Kahana and Roxy from All Star Season 2. I think the difference there, I think she could go all the way to the end, because the difference was, as far as the backlash against Roxy, was that Roxy was up against beloved, Alyssa, and I'm trying to think of who were some of the other ones that she sent home, but just like some of them that you were like, get rid of Roxy at this point because we want to keep these particular girls. And the fact that that's not the case with Kahana, I mean, is anybody going to be really upset if it's Kahana versus Alexis and Alexis gets sent home?
Well, yeah, but now you're talking about the general ambivalence we all have about this cast. Like, does anybody really care who wins? I mean, it would be weird if Jimbo didn't win, but it's not like anyone would lose sleep if Jimbo doesn't win.
Right.
So.
I think if that became more apparent now that Heidi's gone too. I think if Heidi had been still here, then you would at least have that, like, okay, it could be one of the two of them who's going to nudge the other one out of the top spot. But now it's like the only one that's really that I'm even sort of remotely voting for or rooting for would be Jimbo. And even then, not crazy, like not to a fever pitch.
Yeah, but there's a lot of drag delusion in the fandom. I was talking to a friend about this yesterday. He was bringing this up, and I've seen it. And there's a Reddit post that was up recently. I don't know if it's still around. And they had a picture of Jinx as Judy Garland. And then they had a picture of Jimbo as Shirley Temple.
Mm-hmm.
and it said, "Two queens stand before you. Whose snatch was better?" And I'm like, this isn't even. I mean,
not even close.
It's not even close. But in Reddit land, they're super close. Like, Jimbo was the best one on an episode of really shitty ones.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I laughed out loud at the tap dancing moment.
Yes.
But that was
it.
the one joke. That was it. Where Judy Garland was like the one of, if not the best one in the history of the show.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting when she did the fucking Girl from Orange is the New Black.
Mm-hmm.
That one was better than Jimbo as Shirley Temple.
Yeah, Natasha Lyonne.
So, I don't know. They're crazy. All right. After the non-elimination, Kahana learned that the votes were unanimous against her and she would have gone home. Jimbo mourns her third lip sync loss, and the queens reflect on Heidi's departure. The next day, the girls enter the workroom and notice the photos of RuPaul have been replaced by portraits of Joan Crawford and one conspicuous poster of Faye Dunaway as Joan Crawford. Next, RuPaul enters the workroom to announce this week's Maxi Challenge. The girls will record solo numbers as they represent a different era as they represent different eras from the career and life of Joan Crawford. In the workroom, the girls listen to the music, read the script, and announce which roles they would like for themselves. Candy and Jessica duke it out for one particular role, which Candy wins by audition. I managed to there's so little happened. I managed to squeeze 3 acts into this whole thing. Taylor, let's start with the non-elimination sequence. Did you have any big thoughts on everything that happened up before the titles dropped?
Yeah, I think that Kahana recognizing that everybody, especially when you consider last time she got so defensive and so angry when, like, Darian, the fact that this time she was able to kind of say, yeah, I respect you all for doing this and I get it, was a refreshing change. And I appreciate that it didn't just sort of devolve into, well, they're all intimidated by me. No, nobody's intimidated by you. Jimbo crying about that. I can see where people, it could be the equivalent of that's a lot of crying for safe. But I think at this point, Jimbo is realizing that this could affect bookings. She's had 3 shitty lip syncs. It's one thing to just sort of lose the lip syncs. It's another thing to really, you're kind of showing the, what you do. And there may be places that wouldn't necessarily book her if they think she's just going to kind of twirl around and put her arms out.
Well, do you think, so this actually goes to a note that I have. Do you think that Jimbo just doesn't do lip, she does more like performance art. She comes out of that weird character and does weird shit. So maybe just lip syncing isn't her thing. But that was the thing that was so surprising to me was I wrote as a note, wait, Jimbo hasn't been throwing these lip syncs? Like, she actually cares. I legitimately thought I don't care what the lip sync, I'm just going to throw it.
Well, I know that's been the rumor. Yeah, I know that's been the rumor. But at some point, after the third one, I mean, even if that's you throw the first 2 and then you wow them with the third one, because there's only so many episodes left. So unless you're going to really, wow somebody on the 4th or 5th time, plus at what point does Ru go, I can't, say that she's the winner because I can't deal with another shitty lip sync?
Well, no, hold on for a second. I've talked about this. This is the thing that makes me laugh when I see it on Reddit, is I've seen this talk on Reddit where it's like, Jimbo is a shitty lip syncer, so how can she win the whole thing? They don't fucking care on this show. They will just last year, Jinx went up against Monet, clearly lost against Monet, and they crowned her the winner. The show does not fucking care. They will just crown whoever they want to crown as the winner. And that's the thing. I think the show does a great illusion of tricking people that it's real, but it's not. This is all predetermined. Thank you.
The only other thing, well, no, actually I have a couple of things, but when I saw that there were pictures of Joan Crawford and Faye Dunaway everywhere, I was so excited because I know how much you love talking about Faye Dunaway. So I was just like, oh yes, it's gonna be a show about crazy women, and it's Joe's favorite topic.
Yeah.
So
I do. When I was in college, I don't know if I ever talked about this. I was the entertainment editor for the school newspaper, but like before that, even when I was a freshman, because I went to a college that was close enough to LA, only like a 45-minute drive, we would get invited to the movie press junkets when they would promote movies.
Mm-hmm.
And no one ever wanted to go because they didn't want to go to LA. I was like, I'll fucking do it. So I interviewed all these celebrities when I was in college. And one of them was Faye Dunaway. And this is actually going to speak to a thing that I want to talk about later about Mommy Dearest and Joan Crawford and Faye Dunaway and all that. I knew about Mommy Dearest, sort of. I hadn't watched it, and I knew she was an actress. I just knew, right? And so I just sort of showed up, and they had told us, "Don't bring up Mommy Dearest," and I was like, I don't care because that's not a problem. And she was, I don't know, I barely remember the interview. I'm sure I have a tape of it somewhere. And now I'm like, oh my God, if that were me now, I would lose my fucking mind. Faye Dunaway is such a cuckoo bird, crazy person. And for those of you, and I don't know how much we're going to get into this, okay. Joan Crawford was a crazy person. And
Yes.
we're going to get into this later because I want to get to this act, right? So when we get to the Joan Crawford musical or whatever, we will get into this. She was a crazy person. Then they made a movie about this crazy person and cast a crazy person as a crazy person. So I don't know if you've ever, Karina Longworth on You Must Remember This, she did a whole thing about Betty and Joan, a whole season. And I think the last episode of the season was a 1-episode dedication to the making of Mommy Dearest, which is just a whole cuckoo bananas making of story of that fucking movie. And so yeah, Faye Dunaway is an absolute cuckoo bird, and I love cuckoo. Look, people think I'm a fan of Marianne Williamson because she has great thoughts. No, she is Faye Dunaway level crazy, and I fucking love it. I don't know. I just can't get enough of her. Same thing with Marianne Williamson. Going back to this, I have a note here that Jimbo should really talk to James Mansfield about how to mask that line between the breastplate and your neck. Because James Mansfield is really good at it. It's almost unclockable with James Mansfield, but Jimbo is equally as bad. Also, there's a part in this segment where Candy, they're talking about Heidi leaving, and she's like, I hope she didn't plant any seeds that I'm trying to send the best people home. And I'm like, yeah, but then you sent James home. Like,
right.
She played into Heidi's, like, I know, like, this is why, guys, so it's one of the things is that Jimbo should have been in the bottom. I think Taylor agrees, right?
Yes. I could definitely see an argument for Jimbo being in the bottom. Yes.
I was speaking to AfterBuzz TV's Jay Ellis earlier, right before the show, and he was saying, girl, how was Jimbo not in the bottom for this episode, right? And it's because, and he knew why, it's what he was getting to, and we all know, is because they knew if they put Jimbo in the bottom, that 100% Candy would just send her home. And there's a good chance the cast might too. So they didn't want that, so they couldn't put her in the bottom, right? But yeah, Candy has a plan to send a person home, which gets to a philosophical question that I want to put this basically in a note for Rulaska Thoughts. Is going on All Stars about winning the competition, or is it about a redemption or winning the fans over? Because that's two different games. You can go in there and win the competition and Naomi Smalls it and life's not fair and send Manila home. Or you can be it could be a miscongeniality race, which gets you goodwill with the audience. Which one is more valuable? I don't know. We'll talk about this on Rulaska Thoughts on this coming episode. Let's move on to the next day with the Mommy Dearest lines, pictures and stuff like that. Did you have any thoughts on anything that happened the next day before we go into the workroom?
I thought that the Rue intro was dumb. It was just quotes. There's at least something to kind of tie when she uses quotes together, but she was just spouting out lines for Mommy Dearest. At one point when she says Mommy Dearest is a master class in acting, I just sort of laughed because it's for camp. Yes, absolutely. But she didn't say that. She said it's, where it should be up there in the, the pantheon of the best films ever made due to, it's not. And the one thing that I wish they had done. I get why they said a night of a 1,000 Grace Joneses sort of thing. Why not do a night of 1,000 Faye Dunaways?
Yeah, you could have.
You could have, because she's had enough. You figure she's got Bonnie and Clyde. She's got, I came up with a bunch of them in my head, and that's the only one I can remember right now. But she's made enough movies that they could have done something that it would have worked.
Again, for my younger audience, Faye Dunaway, this isn't the, okay, let me go to the Faye Dunaway crazy thing. You don't understand something. This is what a crazy person she is. She literally had an early career like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Okay. Where she could have been, and probably was, Meryl Streep before Meryl Streep. Okay. She was the first real sort of method actress that sort of made it big. And the string of her early movies is unbeatable. She was in Bonnie and Clyde. She was in Chinatown. She was in Network. And that was just three off the top of my head. She had this incredible run of films, but she was such a crazy, difficult person to work with that her career went downhill. It was, in fact, I don't know if people know this, before Joan Crawford died, they asked her who she thought were the next up-and-coming stars, and she said that the only one that really matched the true Hollywood star power great actress was Faye Dunaway. Joan Crawford actually spotted her before and paid her a compliment.
Oh, wow.
And even before Mommy Dearest, her career was starting to go downhill because she was so difficult. So she saw, going with what Taylor was talking about, she saw Mommy Dearest as a chance to be a redemption, a comeback. And so that's the thing with the movie, is it took itself very, very seriously. They are going for the motherfucking Oscar. To them, this is a prestige picture.
Right.
And what's funny is the studio was even surprised. So, and this is, Faye Dunaway's talked very little about Mommy Dearest, but she has talked about this because she thinks the studio fucked up, is the audience, they release a serious movie, and the early movie posters for Mommy Dearest were very serious. This is a prestige motherfucking picture.
Yeah.
And very quickly, the movie actually was kind of a hit, but that's because audiences were going to laugh at it. So the studio pivoted and started marketing it as this camp classic on the first run. And Faye Dunaway thinks that's why everyone remembers it. But no, this movie is cuckoo. This movie is so cuckoo. Again, Faye Dunaway has talked about this a little bit. One of the things she's talked about was she did not get along with the directors. There's a whole bunch of reasons why, the stories. And that he intentionally, that she went too far and it was his fault for not pulling her back. Okay, whatever.
Right.
But two, that he would do this thing, and you know what? I'll give Faye Dunaway this. Either he's a shitty director or she's right.
I love what now, since you told me this, I watch it and I that's what goes through my head. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He holds a shot for too long. So in other words, when you see a movie and there's some dramatic thing, there'll be a shot and then they cut away. Well, they don't here. So, like, she's holding the last shot and then waiting for a cut. And then, usually they'll cut that part out. They don't. So in Mommy Dearest, shots, especially the crazy ones, stay on her for like 1 or 2 seconds too long, which is really weird and makes her look even crazier than she really is. And which, no, she is crazy. But like, it's like the scene with the wire hangers, and maybe it was directed this way. It's a movie from it's a scene from a horror movie.
Yeah.
She looks like a monster. And I think that's what's intentional. Oh my God, this movie is so crazy. It is. And I think that's the thing, is I think the memes and everything about it have not ruined it because it is camp classic, but have made people think I don't need to watch this because I've already seen that part. And yes, but the way those little pieces fit into the entire thing,
right,
is brilliant. It's a work of art. It's completely bananas. All right. So anyway, anything from the workroom?
The whole thing with Candy, where she said, I don't have any other options, and Alexis called her on it. She's like, you can't just say that you're taking the role. And she was just like, well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I want the role. but I don't want to take any other roles. But I won't take any other roles. It's like, no, that is what you're saying. I think in that moment, Candy sort of realized, like, I'm getting ready to go to Tamisha Iman territory, so I got to pull it back. And, you know, just that was sort of, you started to see the shades of old Candy kind of come out.
Well, but that's the thing with Candy Muse is on social media this week. She's like, "You saw it? When did I say it? The only one." Like, well, you don't have to say it, you know. But it's such a narcissistic thing to do, to be like, to play with. No, I won't say narcissistic. It's such a gaslighty, manipulative thing to do. Like, well, I didn't say those specific words, but bitch, the intent was there.
Yeah.
Why were there wire hangers in the workroom, by the way?
There were wire hangers. Well,
yeah, why? I was like, why are there wire hangers?
Well,
here?
because probably some of the girls who left, they left wire hangers behind from their clothes there, because they were the sort of that felt lined, so that they're not, you know, they don't ruin the garments. But that makes sense why there would be wire hangers.
All right,
because there was a ton of them.
There were a ton. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the rest of the episode. We are back. On the main stage, the girls record their vocals with Leland and some new guy. The only thing that happened that's kind of interesting is that Jessica can't say the word axe. On the main stage, after the girls leave the main stage, this is always a weird thing they do in the show. Hear me out here. After the girls leave the main stage where they record their vocals, they return to the main stage for a choreography session with director Adam Shankman. The only thing that happens that's kind of interesting is that Adam Shankman can kick really high. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is they try and do this thing where it's like the girls were in one room and then just went to the next room, but it's the same room.
Right.
But they try to give the illusion that they've gone to two different rooms. It's very strange.
Like they have two runways that they have to go to. Yeah.
Yes. It's bizarre. Any thoughts on the recording or the choreography? This, to me, before you say anything, I love how I'm like, do you have any thoughts? Let me tell me my thought first. No, but before you say anything, I was like, nothing happened. I literally was trying to find things to put in the notes, and just literally nothing of note happened. It was just, let's fill time.
The only thing that happened was, I'm wondering if our younger listeners would get the Milli Vanilli reference.
Oh, okay. Explain it.
All right, so Milli Vanilli was a band in the late 80s. It was two guys. I think they were German. And
they were, I think. You're right.
Yeah, they were from Germany. It was a dance band, and they had a song called, what was their first song? I know they had Blame It on the Rain. And then...
Blame It on the Rain. There was another one. I don't remember what it was.
All of their songs basically sounded similar. And they won the Grammy for Best New Artist that year. And come to find out that the band was not these two guys, that they lip synced everything. And it came out, initially they were on tour, and the CD that they were using skipped. They were on a Club MTV tour, and they were one of the performers. And while in the middle of them singing, the CD started skipping. So then there was investigations done, and they come to realize that it was this band that kind of were like, no, we are actually musicians. Yeah, it was studio musicians. Yeah. And it got to be so bad that one of the two guys killed himself.
Yeah. I can't remember. Was it which one was it? The
Girl,
one with
You
the
Know It's
dreadlocks?
True. That's the name of the first song. Girl, It's True.
Girl, you know it's true. Ooh, 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 ooh. Which is so funny because they were German, but with clearly American accent singing. Like it was very strange. But also what people don't understand was this wasn't like, some sort of, I think nowadays it would have been some sort of like embarrassing, the Ashley Simpson kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But this was like a huge news story. I'm not even being funny, almost akin to the President of the United States taking classified documents to his home in Mar-a-Lago.
It was, yeah.
It was like investigations and shit like that. And you're like, and as a kid, it made sense to me. Like, oh yeah, this makes sense. But now that I'm like, who fucking cares?
Well, I think it was because they got the Grammy, so they had a press conference where they had to hand the Grammy back. I remember that, and The difference between that and
cares?
Ashley Simpson is Ashley Simpson was actually singing, though. These two guys they were just two models.
True. One of them was really hot, actually.
One of them was the one that died. He was really,
Was the one
hot.
that died was really hot? Oh, okay.
Mhm. Rob and Fab. They tried to create their own band like in the early 90s and like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Why do I know that?
Anyway, other than the Milli Vanilli thing, like I thought the choreography section went. I figured this out when I was like, this choreography section is way too long. Like, why are we still here? It is like they showed him going through with every single person, and even more so, nothing happened. It was nothing. Literally nothing happened.
The one thing that I am not a big Adam Shankman fan. Like I used to watch So You Think You Can Dance, and he was a judge on there all the time. He was one of the judges that would be on every once in a while. I do like, though, that he did all the choreo with them. He didn't just kind of stand and watch them and say, now do this, do this, do this. Like with each one, he tried to walk them through it. And, you know, we definitely have our low bar as far as who's the worst choreographer. But I thought that he seemed to genuinely want them to do well. It wasn't about, and even he even says at one point, like, I'm not going to stand here and berate you. That doesn't make any sense to do that. You know, I want you to succeed, which felt shady. It felt like a shady statement.
All right, it's elimination day and the girls get ready for the runway. Alexis spent the entire night rehearsing. Jimbo just wants to avoid the bottom, and Candy makes sure everyone is aware of the voting strategy.
Shrug.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess the whole need to say, now how is everybody voting? Bitch, they're going to vote how they want to vote. I don't get why you think that you are telling everybody, you know, well, we need to go on this or we need to go on that. Just it's let's see what happens. Let's see how everybody does. And then everybody's going to vote however they want to vote.
I really feel for the editors this episode. First of all, this season, but this episode I could tell they had to work with nothing. They had to work with nothing. It was awful. I have nothing to say here. All right. Well, now it's time, and this is probably where we'll spend the most time. It's time to talk about Joan, the unauthorized Rusical. Before we get into Mommy Dearest and the actual facts and all of my theories and all this drama, what were your thoughts just on the Rusical itself?
I actually enjoyed it. I did think that it was. I know that we went through that phase after Lucian, where a lot of them were really shitty Rusicals, but I think since Leland came in, we definitely had to talk about like Wigstock, and I know that there have been other ones over the last couple of years that have been really good. That this was an example of one that was really, really enjoyable to me.
It was fine. It was fine. Maybe I know too much about Mommy Dearest and stuff like that, where I was like, that's not true. Or like, I was like, they're trying to cram too much also into this. Like there were like obscure Mommy Dearest references about when like Joan Crawford makes Christina eat a raw steak. You know, like, oh my God, that's a bizarre.
That's a big. I remember that being a big scene though when I was a kid. Probably because that's something that my mother would have done to me.
Oh, really? Yeah, it is a big scene, but like, yeah. But I thought was fine. Some people on Reddit are like, oh, this is one of the best Rusicals of all time. You know, I'm like, I don't know about that, but it was fine. It was perfectly. The thing is that the girls as a whole have gotten better at the Rusicals. I don't know why, but they have. But not Snatch Game, but they've gotten better at the Rusicals. And so, yeah, it was perfectly enjoyable. I think the only thing that suffered, I don't think the quality of the music was that good. If you take a number by number, like Don't Fuck With Me Fella scene is so iconic. And I know because she says, this isn't my first time at the rodeo. They decided to actually turn that into like a sort of like cowboy Western square dancey song. Yeah, country bebop or something. And I was like, that's really weird. It doesn't really jive with the sort of scene.
It is weird. However, out of everybody, that was the best performance of the night, I thought.
No, you're right. I actually thought, and I should have said this at the top of the show, that Alexis was sort of robbed. I think Alexis should have been in the top, if I'm being honest.
Alexis should have won. Alexis should have won this week. Absolutely.
Yeah, she should have won. She was very good in the Rusical, that's her talent, and her outfit was really good.
Yes.
Which we will get to in a second. But the topic I really want to talk about here today, and it sounds like it's a Rulaska thought style topic, but Robert is not in our generation. Because something that I was thinking about with this episode was this is a really odd mix of things here with the Grace Jones and the Night of 1,000 Joan Crawfords, in that there are a bunch of queens who watch this show. Most of the audience is very young,
Right.
who have no idea what they're talking about. In fact, as I was telling people yesterday, like, I think that you and I don't have that big of an age difference. It's like 2 or 3 years or something.
Yeah.
But we can see it here, is in that I just missed being exposed to Grace Jones. Partly because I was the older brother. I know you have an older sister, but I was...
No, I don't.
Oh,
I'm
you
the
don't?
oldest. I'm the oldest.
Oh. So then I thought for some reason you were the person who, like, you're... Oh, man, somebody else then. Okay, so I don't know if you're a big Grace Jones fan at all, but, like, I'm barely aware of her. Yeah, maybe she was even too old. She's sort of like the icon for, like, RuPaul's generation, or gays, or maybe even just a step younger. Like, I have a cousin who's gay, and he's in his mid to late 50s, and that might be more of his scene. People were like,
yeah, she was bigger, like, in the late 70s, early 80s, which is, and honestly, the way that I know music is from MTV, and she didn't have any real, like, videos that they would show on MTV in the beginning. That's kind of how all of that music has been imprinted on me and different artists, that sort of thing. So I knew her from movies. Like, she was in one of the Conan the Barbarian movies, and she had done a couple of things
James
like
Bond,
that.
I think,
yeah,
too,
she was the villain, one of the villains in A View to a Kill.
So, that didn't really, those looks didn't resonate with me. That's not a person that I'm looking for. And then two, with Mommy Dearest, but there's a difference between the two. And this is where I'm going here, is we have two gay icons, but they're different in that I feel Grace Jones is a gay icon, but for a very specific generation and belongs to that generation. Where I feel, even though people have been arguing with me, but the people I talk to, I shouldn't have been talking to them, I feel Joan Crawford sort of transcends generations. However, she is an acquired taste. And I think, here, I've been thinking a lot about this for the past 24 hours, is I feel like, not just gay people, but anybody, when you're very young, I'm saying let's start with 18, but it's younger, but we'll start with 18 to, like, I don't know, in your early 30s, you're building your pop culture palette.
Yes.
Food palette. You're building your palette. And so you're building that. And so you don't either have the bandwidth or the interest in anything outside of what very much interests you as you build your taste level.
I agree with that.
And then you get to a certain point where, okay, you've established your taste level. You're comfortable with what you like personally. And then that's when you venture out into more obscure things that still fall in the realm of your taste level, but it could be different things. Maybe if you like music, you start going to obscure disco songs, or, like, it could be a million things, like, for me personally, I'm a cinephile, right? And I saw this tweet that I wish I would have, anything I ever see that I should have saved, I never do. But I saw this tweet that was essentially, I'm paraphrasing, along the lines of that when you first start becoming a fan of film, you just want to see everything on the AFI Top 100 list or any sort of Sight and Sound Top 100 because you're building your taste level. And then you see that and you might go to, like, foreign films after that, right? And then once you've built that, once you've established that, the tweet makes a joke about how once you're like, you're a true cinephile when you're like, oh, wait, Bela Lugosi and, a bat or something like that, right? And you're like, that's true. Like, so now I do watch highbrow movies, but I'll also be equally excited for a movie like, Teenagers from Outer Space, or something that come into, actually, this was a movie I saw recently, it was from the 50s, where, like, alien teenagers come and take over and, like, super cheesy and dumb, and you're so stoked on this.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with Mommy Dearest. Is like, yeah, I had no interest in Mommy Dearest until I was probably in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw it in a theater. Well, no, I actually started with a parody called Mommy Queerest. Saw that, didn't really get all the jokes, but then I was like, well, because I gotta watch this Mommy Dearest. Watched it in the theater with a bunch of faggots, and we just loved it.
Yeah.
And then since then I've become a big fan and learned more about it. I don't know what, but I want to know what your experience is. So I feel like a lot of the younger gays will learn to like it later. But go ahead. What are your thoughts here?
I agree 100% with what you're saying when I think about movies starting at about 18, though I have movies from when I was little that I would watch over and over and over again that I think laid almost the foundation for the foundation of the movies. You know, I'm thinking of movies like Grease. I would watch a million times, or The Wiz was a movie. Mommy Dearest was a movie that was always on HBO that we used to watch over and over and over again. But when I think about some of my favorite movies from that 18 to 30 age, I'm thinking about movies like Soap Dish is one of my all-time favorite movies. Drop Dead Gorgeous, like those weird, dark, campy humors, which definitely anybody who listens to Pod as My Co-Pilot knows that that's kind of, you know, that's sort of the way that we all talk to each other. And you definitely do after a while, you go, okay, I've seen all of these a million times. Yeah. What's something new? What's something new that's within that genre and that, you know, in that wheelhouse, and you just kind of you expand out a little bit. And that's good. I think that's good, you know, because in your 20s, you know, you are so focused on what you like, and really you're still in that kind of that black and white thinking sort of thing. But as you get older, you're like, well, maybe there is more out there that I can try something and see. It's, you know, dip a toe in it and see if I like it or not.
Well, I also think there's a whole decaf element too, in that, like, I think when you're in your 20s and it spills into your 30s, you care a lot about what people think about what your taste level might be. And then at a certain point, you stop giving a fuck, and you're like, I'm just going to like what I like, you know? So I was talking to Robert briefly about this yesterday, and so we'll probably explore this more on Ruleska Thoughts. But because what I was asking was, I was trying to find the floor for this. And what I mean was, obviously, like, someone in their early 20s has no interest or cares about Mommy Dearest, Joan Crawford, or whatever. It'd be unusual, right? Right. But, like, Robert is a smart gay in his early 30s. So I wanted to see if he's like, no. And of course, very Robert, he started pontificating about how only old, you know, gays like this, and that the love of old Hollywood's gonna die. And I'm like, first of all, old Hollywood's been dead since most of us were born. Like, Joan Crawford was dead, I think, around the time I was born. Yeah. So I don't think that's the case. I think, and because then he goes like, yeah, there are all these old gays who love, like, Angela Lansbury and Carol Channing and Phyllis Diller. And I was like, are there though? But I was like, but the problem is, I go, Phyllis Diller, Angela Lansbury, and I don't know, Betty Davis or Carol Channing might be another crowd. But, like, Betty Davis, Angela Lansbury, and Phyllis Diller, I could maybe buy that argument because they're not crazy. They're just really good at what they do, and Ben loved them, right? Love them. My love for Joan Crawford has nothing to do with her being an amazing actress. It has to do, particularly in her later years, and that's actually most of the Joan Crawford that I've watched, actually, even though she's amazing in a movie called The Women, and she's amazing in Mildred Pierce. Most of the movies that I love from Joan Crawford are her later years, like Johnny Guitar, which I was surprised they didn't use in this at all, because it's very lesbian-ish, and she wears a pantsuit the whole time. It's really weird. Because they make reference to other really obscure ones. They make reference to Straight Jacket, a movie she made, which is crazy. They make a movie, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a weird name, like
Trog.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the last movie that she did.
Yeah, they make a reference to Trog, you know, so they make a mix. And when you watch Trog and Straight Jacket, these movies are fucking crazy. And I told them, I go, but the one thing you can't deny, and you should watch these movies because they're fun and they're crazy, is you look at these movies, and she's with because she's now at the twilight of her career and she can't get work, so she's working with much lesser actors.
Hammer Studios, wasn't it, that she got?
Was Trog? for Hammer?
Trog, I think I think even like Straight Jacket and stuff. That was for some reason I know this. I think I know this where she signed like a picture deal with Hammer Studios, which was known for their like almost grindhouse horror-y.
Which, by the way, I'm a huge Hammer Studios fan. Huge, almost fanatic about Hammer Studios, right? So, what you can't deny when you should watch those movies is without knowing a lick about Joan Crawford, you see these movies and you're like, oh shit, because it's more evident in these. When she's in The Women, there's a bunch of power hitters in that movie, so it's hard to tell. But when you're watching like Trog or Straight Jacket, you're like, oh, that's a fucking movie star. Yeah. Like, you can't, and they're not trying to do it, you just can't stop staring at her. Like, you can see, even though it's cuckoo bananas, you can see why she's a movie star. She's not an actress, she's a movie star. Right. And she's not good. They're horrible movies. They're horrible. And that's why I love them. But I was saying people don't love Joan Crawford because she's big. Maybe there are some, but like they love her a lot of us love her for that reason. Same thing. Is there anyone that loves Mommy Dearest except for RuPaul as this seminal motion picture? Mm-hmm. The movie it's camp at its highest level. I mean, you can't beat that as camp.
You don't go because when it's playing in a theater, you go because you want to watch it with other people, and like you said earlier, and laugh at it. It's not like where you're sitting there crying through all of these scenes of just this this amazing emoting and that sort of stuff. You want to watch Faye Dunaway beat the shit out of an 8-year-old actress.
But it's funny. I made that note about this, which is something that's glossed over, and I don't have a problem with this because I think it's funny. But you have to understand something. Mommy Dearest, the movie, is based on an autobiography from her abused daughter. And one of the things that Christina Crawford has never liked about the movie is she felt they made her biggest nightmare was that they made it a movie about Joan Crawford and it downplays and almost comically plays up the abuse. But this is a book and a story about an physically and mentally abused child. Yes. Who's still alive, by the way. Christina Crawford's still alive, that we laugh at. And that they play up what now, by the way, just so everyone should know, it's kind of controversial about how true these stories are. It seems to be like 50-50 of people who knew Joan Crawford. Some people said that they did witness this, some people said they never witnessed this, and that Christina's lying. Mm-hmm. So, because also people should know, this is not in the story, Joan Crawford had 2 other kids she adopted. We only see Christopher and Christina, but she had 2 other kids, and she left everything to those 2 other kids, and the 2 other kids say Joan Crawford was nothing but lovely, and do not agree with Christina. Yeah, well, they got everything right.
Right.
So, but guys, this is where it gets cuckoo. Is in the movie you see this. The final scene is Joan Crawford in her coffin, and they tell Christina and Christopher that she's left them nothing for reasons known to them, right?
Right.
Well, the theory is that Joan Crawford, because Christina the book came out like right after Joan Crawford died, and that Joan Crawford had gotten a whiff that Christina was writing and selling a book about her, and so cut her off the will. So it's guys, this is, if you are a fan of just gay faggotry, even though nobody's gay or faggotry in this.
Some of the costumes are very faggotry.
I was telling Jeremy, we were watching it, and I said, let me tell you something. I said, almost every outfit here is directly lifted from the movie. And he was like, what? Like, the crazy one that James is wearing? I'm like, no, Faye Dunaway is really wearing that outfit. In fact, it might be more crazy in the movie.
Yeah, because it's Faye Dunaway wearing it and not an actual drag queen.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking, because I was talking to Jay Els before, my birthday is coming up. I'm actually thinking of somehow like renting a small theater or something and showing Mommy Dearest to everybody I know. Like Robert's never seen it, Jay's never seen it, and just having like a party out here where we just fucking watch Mommy Dearest. The only problem is I think it's like 2 hours. Maybe we'll watch Straight Jacket. I think Straight Jacket is like 70 minutes. Or something. But right. You're welcome to come, Taylor. And so you can invite Baba too if you want.
I could bring Baba too. That would be your birthday present.
Yeah, he could sit in my lap. Oh, sorry, we're out of seats. Wait, there's a whole row of empty seats right here. No, those are reserved. For who? I don't know.
My friend's bringing all of his dolls.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm an evil John. I need to borrow $200. So anyway, but yeah, so like I think like so Robert was poo-pooing that he would ever like Mommy Dearest, and who maybe he never will. But what I disagree with him is I think gays will still love Mommy Dearest just as much as they do now. In fact, you and I are even too young from I was like 6 when it came out or something, 5.
Yeah, it was. I think I was 9. It came out I think in 81.
Oh, okay. So I would have been like not born. -10.
By the way,
yeah,
we were both alive when Joan Crawford died. She died in 1977.
Oh, okay. Well, then she waited for me to be born, and then she died.
Right.
All right. Let's go to the looks. Night of 1,000 Grace Joneses. Your thoughts here, Taylor the Latte Boy.
The only one that I really, really liked was Alexis's. Alexis's was the only one that I thought was, and again, the reason why I thought, oh, well, she's going to win tonight. So that's why I was very surprised that she was deemed safe of all things. Like they didn't even keep her on for the stage for that. But
yeah, I know.
I thought James's was awful with the foxtails and
it was awful.
And I actually kind of liked Candy's. I thought Candy's look was pretty cool.
There's a lot of criticism online about Candy's, not because necessarily the look, even though people think it looked cheap, but was that Michelle loves to read a bitch for always wearing a one piece or whatever. What do they call those? Not the one piece. What do they call
leotard?
it? Like yeah, whatever it is.
A leotard.
And then a leotard, and then sticking things on it, which is essentially what she did. But then she won the whole. They won the whole thing. By the way, breaking news. We took a little break earlier, and I was on the Reddit, and Heidi posted this thing that's very interesting. If anyone remembers when Heidi left, remember she confronted Alexis about, hey, you saw Candy say this thing. And Alexis backed down in an interview the next week, not interview, in a live with Jimbo. She said it was because she was afraid of Candy. And Heidi just posted a tweet or Instagram post saying like, wow, the next week, next episode, Alexis didn't seem to be too afraid of Candy when it came to casting the roles. Yeah. And I think, oh, that's a very good point. Very good point. Point Heidi in closet. You're right. She wasn't too afraid of Alexis then. Any other thoughts on the looks?
No, I just kind of did a lot of like, okay, well, that was all right. That's an okay look. I'm not as familiar. I know that anytime you saw Grace Jones in the 80s, she always had on these amazing high fashion, high concept outfits.
Yeah.
So I knew to expect something like that, but I was sort of underwhelmed by everybody. The only other like specific note was Jimbo. I said it was different for her. Like her makeup and everything was very different from what we know. And she didn't have the big fake boobs and all that. So,
well, I did, but then I thought it made her look stiff and bizarre and weird. So I don't know.
Oh, is it just me or did Ru look so uncomfortable in that dress walking down the runway?
People have commented on this. I didn't clock it, but you're not the first person to say people didn't like it. It was very polarized. Some people really loved it. Some people didn't like it. Where did you fall on the look of it?
Oh, I didn't like it at all. But even the way that she was, I mean, I think it was so tight. And Michelle even made the comment about it. But she just looked, when she did her, welcome to RuPaul's, she just looked like, I just have to get through this one more time. And then I can get to go and put on my sweatpants.
Yeah. I have to look at it. People have commented on this. I want to look at that. All right, on the main stage, Candy Muse is named the top all-star of the week, while Kahana Montrese and James Mansfield are placed in the bottom 2. Later, Angeria Harrison Michaels is this week's lip-sync assassin, and she goes head-to-head against Candy Muse in a lip-sync battle for their legacies. The song, I'm Not Perfect, But I'm Perfect for You, by Grace Jones. In the end, Candy Muse was named the winner of the lip-sync, and she won the power to reveal the name of the person she selected to leave the competition. That name, James Mansfield. Taylor, any final thoughts on the episode? Things we didn't mention, things you forgot to say? Give it to us now.
I love that we live in a world in which RuPaul is giving vocal critique to a drag queen.
Oh, God. This bitch. Do you think she'd really... No, but people have joked that she can't sing, but do you think she believes she can't sing?
No, I think she believes she can do anything she puts her mind to.
That's true. She probably does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to say right now is on the nose. I'm not the first person to say this. It's I clocked it, everyone clocked it, but I want to call it just as a way of documenting this episode. Was Leland intentionally trying to look like a gay Fred from Scooby-Doo?
I did write on there, why is he wearing one of Mrs. Kasha Davis's balloons around his neck?
Yeah, I don't know. It was really weird. And what happened to Freddie? It was always Leland and Freddie, and now it was just some schlubby guy sitting there.
I don't know. Maybe Fred wasn't available. Fred had a shift at Hamburger Mary's that he couldn't get somebody to pick up for him. So
he didn't have the wires to plug into that mixer that he
he was at Radio Shack trying to find the right wires.
By the way, I had this as a talking point, but I want to get out of here, so I'm not going to really focus on it that much. But like, why does Leland bother me so much? I don't get it, because he's never really done anything patently offensive or awful. He doesn't deserve a this Leland, but he really fucking bothers me, and I think it's a me thing. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. What do you think it is? What do you think of this Leland?
I don't mind him. He's just sort of there, you know. Yeah. I mean, when Lucian was on, Lucian seemed to have more of a presence that you. Plus, I always thought Lucian was cute, so that definitely helped. But Leland is sort of like, okay, you're talented and you're there. You just, you know, he's sort of middle of the road. He's kind of milquetoast in that he doesn't really, you know, he doesn't Todrick them, but he doesn't, you know, necessarily like whatever the opposite of Todrick is. Yeah. Where everything they do isn't amazing. Yeah. It's just, he's just sort of like, okay, that was good. You might want to try this, or you might want to try that. And there's just sort of, he's whelming.
I'm going to tell you something. Here's proof that I want to get out of here. You dropped these Todrick references and I didn't bite, because I'm like, I want to get out of here. Even though there are big topics we didn't talk about. There's a part on Elimination Day where Jessica's talking about how she just turned 40 and she realized that there's life after 40. I'm like, the 40s are amazing.
40s are awesome.
Yeah.
I loved my 40s.
And then one more thing was during the way that they're pushing this shit, the rigor mortis and stuff like that, is during, you don't really hear any other number, but on Candy's number, which was fine, on the Rusical, you hear Michelle doing that famous ha 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 on the back. I'm like, okay, we get it, girl. We get it. You're trying to.
We're all supposed to like this one, though. I did think Candy did well. I mean, I thought that she did a good job.
Yeah, she. I mean, she had one of the best songs in the whole thing, but whatever. All right. Well, on that note, why don't we do this? Why don't we call it a day? We're gonna wait. How do I say this? Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Recap. Be sure to join us next week and every week as we continue to discuss, dissect, and deconstruct each brand new episode of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 8. So, for Taylor the Latte Boy and myself...
And don't forget me!
And my stone. Sashay away until next week.
Thank you for listening to Drag Race Recap. Have something to say? Leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/afterthoughtmedia. You can also email us at dragracerecap@afterthought.media. For more Drag Race and LGBTQ content, support us over at patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia. You can also watch video versions of the show and more over at youtube.com/dragracerecap. This podcast was produced by Luke Stamen. Taylor the Latte Boy has another podcast. It's called Pod is My Co-Pilot, and it's available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow Taylor on Instagram at PIMC Taylor. Follow Joe Betance on Instagram and TikTok at Joe Betance. Special thanks to these expensive tier Patreon supporters: Alex S., Anonymous, April Pacheco, Astute Girl, Brad Coley, Carter McKinnon, Corinna Williamson, Doofus Maximus, E. Smith, Elizabeth Timmer, Emma, Humble Pie, J. Thomas Blank, Jesse Harris, Kathy Zender, Lauren Eckert, Lucy Carrasco, Luke Stamen, Mike Yeager, Nikki Baker, Poppy Woods, Ricardo Herrera, Robert NYC, Robin Eggenberger, Runner Brandon, Sarah Yu, Tom Bombs, Travi Cosmos, Troy Anderson, Zach Nelson. Drag Race Recap is an Afterthought Media podcast.